experience ranging from indie, double to AAA. Oh, now I'm live. You just saw me mime a bunch of that. Hello. Welcome to DevHeads, podcast
Use it,
focused on
Jay.
the ins,
Use it.
outs.
Push.
Take this energy. Podcast focused on the ins, outs, and goings on of game development with hosts ranging from indie, double to AAA. You've heard it before. Welcome, guys. I'm Jay, and I'm joined, as always, by my wonderful co-host, Tina.
Hi, I represent AAA.
The trip and
trip.
the double.
The trip.
Do
I want
the
to be
double.
the double?
Yeah, you're the
sounds
double.
a little not insidious, but illegitimate. I'm the double.
Okay. And today we have a guest that I've been super excited to join us for a very long time, representing the mega renaissance man of the universe, the infinitely talented Abubakar Salim. Welcome.
Thank you very much. That was a renaissance man. Yeah, I like that, man. All right, cool.
Bro, how many things do you do? Like,
Yeah, too many.
Every time you've got so many fingers and so many pies. I'm surprised you can juggle still. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on.
No, thank you. No, really, I'm very excited to be here. I'm really excited to kind of just, like, again, I love talking about games. I love talking about that kind of development element of it all. Like, it's the knowledge needs to be shared. So thank you for having me.
For sure, man.
We should share with the listeners what you've worked on a little bit. So you were, is it Bayek in Assassin's Creed Origins?
Yeah, Bayek in Assassin's Creed Origins, Rokan in World of Warcraft.
You're in Diablo as well, right? Diablo 4?
Yeah, in Diablo 4, yeah. Playing a priest. A good old priest who dies terribly in the cinematic in the opening.
You were Eros in Stray Gods Orpheus.
That is so true, which is, it's one of that was one of those roles I remember doing and thinking to myself, like, oh yeah, people weren't, it's a small indie project. No one's gonna know about it. And then now I have to explain to everyone, yes, I played the God of Sex, which is always great. But yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah.
And then your notable TV projects. So you're a father and Raised by Wolves, which inspired me to have better posture, by the way.
Really, did it?
Yes, because of you and your colleague, I started sitting up straight and trying to like get my back in a better position.
just get a latex suit. It helps. It really does. Like, put that thing
suit
on. Oh, you just put that suit on and everything gets tight. It's great.
And then I loved watching you as Alan in House of Dragons. That was very
thank
cool.
you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Do you guys see what I mean about Renaissance Man? And also, not to mention your game that's just came out from you and your wonderful team.
I'm also a game developer, which is very, very. I'm in the industry, which is very surreal, very, very surreal.
You're in the industries, man.
yeah.
It's insane. And we were talking just before this about just getting to know each other a bit more. And
I was losing my mind.
Mikey was talking about some of the projects he's worked on that you seem very interested in.
Yeah,
what
Black
was
Mesa,
some of that?
man. I played the amount of time and hours I spent on playing Black Mesa.
Really?
I mean, like, look, man, like, I think it was at a time as well where, very much obsessed with sort of, kind of like the Half-Life kind of vibe and all that kind of jazz and all that, and I was going through my whole, like, first person shooter sort of vibe, trying as much as I can, everything I can. So, yeah, me and actually specifically the writer on Tales of Kenzera would play a lot of Black Mesa. So
no shit. Together, streaming to them. That's awesome. Damn. So I have to ask you because, like, I guess for context, people that are watching, I worked on Black Mesa. I did, I would say, most of the writing for the HEC Marines and all of the voice acting. Like, all of that's me, except for the Vox, like the intercom that comes in. I believe that was Chris Martin's, but I have to double check. What did you think of my performance there? And be honest. That's something I love to ask people about.
Again, it was good. It was great. It kept me in. Like, I think, like, the thing is, this is the other thing, right? It's like, when it comes to performance or from my experience anyway of acting, as long as it doesn't take me out of the world, then it's fine. It doesn't have to be like Tom Hardy sort of like Troy Baker like kind of level of masterpiece. Because okay, that's great, but like the things that make those performances great are the nuances, are the things that you wouldn't, you'd hear a line and you would naturally turn around and you're like, oh man, I never would have delivered it that way, or I never would have heard of it that way. Like it's, those are the things that really kind of make those like big performances sing, right? But ultimately, truly, a good performance keeps you in the world. It pays service to the world. And honestly, this is what I mean by like the writing and the performance was good, man. Like it kept me in. Didn't lose my mind. So it was brilliant. It was good, man. I
Thank
again,
you,
as I
man.
said, like it really, really enjoyed it. So yeah, it's I'm like even like watching now, I can see like some of the live streaming right now, and I'm watching something like it's taking me back. It's really taking me back, man.
Thank you, man.
So,
It
you,
really does. It means a lot to hear that. I think, I mean, look, what were they called in the original Half-Life? Grunts. They were just every other kind of guy. In Half-Life 1, I remember meeting the writer of Half-Life 1, actually, Mark Laidlaw, at Steam Dev Days in 2014. And I think I was talking to Black Mesa team at the time, but we weren't like working together. And I was always interested in like, because of my background, I guess, like that military shooter perspective, and asking him like, so it's so interesting how you like characterized AGC Marines. What were you going for with your portrayal there? What branch were they from? What was this? And he kind of shrugged and he went, we just kind of needed some bad guys. And I thought, okay, well, and when I joined the Black Mesa team, it was sort of a similar perspective where like they put all this extra writing into the scientists, all this extra writing into the guards. And I go, guys, like there's a third man here, so to speak. Why don't we characterize them? I have some understanding of this working with insurgency. Let me take a stab at it. And they let me have a stab at it, and that's kind of what came out. And I'm happy that it didn't take you out of the world, because that was the goal.
Amazing.
And to humanize them too, I guess.
It was great, man. It's so good. And you know what? It made me really think as well, like we need to make more sort of first person shooters with like story and with like immersive elements to it. I think, like, don't get me wrong, like I think I can actually remember the feeling of, I think it was Modern Warfare, because I never really played Call of Duty much, funnily enough. Like it wasn't really the thing that connected me. Like I think my vibe was Halo or even Half-Life, or I wouldn't really count that as a shooter per se. But like the thing is, it's like I remember playing Modern Warfare for the first time and doing the campaign and losing my mind, because it was the first time I could really feel like I was in this. And I think I was just in this character's shoes, going through this journey. The story, the performances were great. It just felt really, really cool. And I feel like we're missing that now. You know what I mean? Like I feel like we don't have that, or if they do try and attempt it, it's like too clean. We're not going down the whole route of oh man, it's the game Corey made and like it blew my mind. The Line, it was Black Ops: The Line.
Spec Ops: The Line, yeah.
Spec Ops: The Line, yeah. Spec Ops: The Line. Oh my god, like you need, like I feel like I want those experiences again. Like I haven't had that kind of vibe and feel for a while.
You're right. It's crazy. It's crazy because Tina, who's troubleshooting right now, because you can't have a second win stream without some troubleshooting needs to be doing.
My monitor went black, but I can hear you. I don't know if you guys
can okay. Yeah,
we hear you. You're at the bottom of your frame.
You've been blacked out.
Like Kilroy in those World War II.
But on stream, you're blacked out, so you've got time. But
okay.
I want to loop back
I can talk.
This. Yeah. Okay, because Tina, you've worked on some things that were just mentioned.
Yes, I did.
Tina, what have you worked on?
I've worked on Call of Duty. I started with Modern Warfare 3 DLC, and
amazing.
That was a lot of fun. And then I did Ghosts, which was difficult to work on, but I learned a lot because that was my first full game from beginning to end. I worked on Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, which was sci-fi, which I think was underrated and didn't get enough credit for what it was.
COD stories. Yeah.
Yeah. And, a lot of people thought, Call of Duty's copy and paste. And I'm like, sci-fi, everything goes out the window. How guns shoot, the gravity, how people interact with each other and move through the world. And even the environments, right? Doing sci-fi.
The world itself, worlds plural, Mars.
And your hardcore mode in that game, I've got a video planned on the hardcore mode in Infinite Warfare. It's some of the best stuff I've ever seen.
Oh, amazing.
It's incredible.
Really?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Oh,
Nice.
it's insane. It's absolutely insane.
No, it's cool. Yeah, but yeah, that's the thing. So like, yeah, I'm really. I think if you know, again, I'm one of those kind of. I feel like I'm one of those creatives who just wants to keep making really cool stuff and gets inspired by the ideas of like just wanting to make cool shit. So I definitely want to make like a first person sort of shooter, but like bring a level of an experience that feels like it just challenges and changes again the vibe of the player. Like I'm all
Yeah.
about kind of bringing as much of an immersive experience as I can to the stuff that I do, and it's been a very interesting process. Like again, going from the I kind of made a post about this like the other day. Actually, I said like 4 years ago, just over 4 years ago, I had no idea what it meant to make a game. Like no idea, not really much of an idea of the industry as a whole. Anyway, to then like having launched something, and I'm like, okay, now I have this knowledge. And we are like in the middle of like the most craziest time in the industry by far, and it's it's sort of so surreal. So it's that whole thing of like, okay, man, I just really want another chance. I really just want to go again.
Yeah.
It's because there's so much to do within the game space, especially when it comes to building and creating cool content. Yeah, there's just so much there. So much
Yeah.
there.
How did you make that transition then? Obviously, what first of all, I think I know the answer, but I'd love to hear it from you. What motivated you to want to progress and to create a game? And also, how did you like break into that kind of space and have that opportunity?
Yeah. What kind of like how did I break into it? So I think
Yeah.
so the thing is that I've been very lucky and fortunate with the fact that like I after doing Assassin's Creed Origins, I was nominated for an award, and that award essentially at the BAFTAs, that essentially opened me or gave me the opportunity to talk to a lot of people within the industry. So I was at an event where I was talking to developers, and I was really understanding like, oh, okay, it isn't just Ubisoft. There are, many different types of developers. There's indie developers. There are AAA, big, massive developers. There are developers from everywhere from under the sun. And it kind of opened my eyes to the idea of like, oh, okay, so people make games. Human beings make games. They're not these magical things that you like pop into into like your a PC or a console and it just magically happens. Like people actually make games. Artists make games, and I'd say like it wasn't and I've been a gamer all my life. It's been my main mode or main kind of way of taking in stories, taking in art content. So it was there was a moment. I think I was in South Africa at the time where I was doing Raised by Wolves. It was like the sort of the pilot, so you end up filming like the first 2 episodes before the big studios decide that they want to go ahead with something. And it was at that moment where we were filming this pilot with Ridley Scott, of all people. And the fact that he had said yes to me, the fact that he had given me the chance to essentially be an actor, and play a main role, gave me the courage and sort of confidence to be like, oh, I can tell my own stories. And what was that story that I wanted to tell? It was a video game. Like I really wanted to make a video game. And so in truth, I think it was because of my sort of this sort of blind call it ignorance to it all of like what it actually takes to make a game. I just was driven by the passion wanting of making a game. That's essentially what led me to really just starting something. The idea of beginning, talking with friends and people um like about the idea of people in the industry, how do you start a studio, or how do you make a game, getting there, they're like their opinions. Oh, you need a producer, or you need a game designer, you need a game design doc, or you need like programmers, you need artists. And I'm like, okay, where do I find artists? Oh, well, they're all on LinkedIn or ArtStation or Twitter or whatever, so I'm going on there to look for them. Where do I find designers? Again, LinkedIn, sort of wherever. So I'm going on there, and I'm hunting for people. And I think the building blocks of the studio really came with this idea. It started with a concept piece. Like, I always knew that I wanted to tell the story about Zhao, and the story
Yeah.
about grief, and this story of this kid kind of overcoming grief. And I had reached a artist over on ArtStation, just messaged them and put like my own money towards making some concept art pieces to kind of like solidify this idea.
Yeah.
Giving them an idea of what the character looks like, and the character looked very different to the character of where we are now. But like, it was just enough to be like, hey, this is a game idea. This is the beginning of something really cool. And yeah, it just sort of snowballed. It really did. Like, I can't express how much of like the amount of knowledge I didn't have to now the knowledge that I do have. And it was just purely because I was driven with this sense of, I need to tell this story. I need to share this experience. And yeah, that's how we got to where we are today.
It sounds
crazy, man.
extremely grassroots. Like, you were on LinkedIn, you were on ArtStation, just searching and flipping through artists like a
man.
catalog.
Yeah.
Is what you're
I
saying.
mean, honestly, I'd stopped counting how many emails I'd sent, I think, after 500, when it came to, reaching out to developers and artists. And it's funny, I had, because again, I came from Ubisoft. It was, or like, from the experience of Ubisoft, they were all about, don't tell anyone what you're doing. Don't tell them like the game idea or concept. Just say who you are. And at the time I was like, okay, all right, I'm an actor who wants to make a game, but you have no idea what that game is. Leave your job to join me on this sort of great. And it was not successful. Hence why probably there were so many emails out there. But like, as soon as I just opened up, as soon as I started saying, no, I'm making a game, which is heavily inspired by African myth and legend, but ultimately at its heart, it's about the human experience of grief, the journey of grief. God, the amount of like reception of positivity I got from that, from people either being like, yeah, let's do this, or like, oh man, I've just started this job, but I can point you to someone else who who would be up for it, is nuts. And it's because, yeah, artists, react to art, to honesty, to authenticity. And I think like that was something, yeah, it was very grassroots, man. Like, I had put, and even to this day, I think even my wife kind of looks at me like, what the hell, man? I put so much of my own money towards, getting this thing off the ground, because I'd really believed in it. And I wouldn't recommend that to anyone, by the way. Like, I was in a very fortunate position. I had like, I'm an actor. That was like my main job, right? But like, there was a real feel of, there's no one's going to believe in this vision apart from myself. And the more I believe in it, the more then maybe other people might believe and see it. And so that kind of drove that through, as a whole.
Yeah.
Quick note here, because there's just somebody in the chat that's asking, what is Salim's game called? Do you want to maybe like give a quick synopsis?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
So the game is called Tales of Kenzera, Zhao, and it's a sort of action adventure platformer, very much inspired by the Metroidvania genre. And it's essentially about this young boy, this young shaman who strikes a deal with Kalunga, the god of death, the African god of death, or the Congolese god of death, and essentially says, like, in exchange for 3 great spirits, I want you to bring my father back. And the game was very much inspired by my own journey of grief. So I lost my father 10 years ago, and I really wanted to essentially express my own journey of grief in an authentic way. And you know, I always say this. My father introduced me to games. He was very much like a tech head, and very very into kind of the advance of technology. He was a programmer essentially, but he worked at Xerox. He was working on printers, but he appreciated the art of games, and so he introduced me to games. And I always wanted to pay homage to that. I always wanted to create something or tell a story that paid homage to that. And it would have, a lot of people like kind of go like, why didn't you make a film or like, or a TV show or something, because that's where you're from, that's what you do. But it wouldn't have been authentic and it wouldn't have been real. And so it had to be a video game. And so yeah, Tales of Kenzera Zao is essentially that game, this universe, this world that I wanted to conjure. And it all comes from that seed of, grief in a way.
Yeah, and I think that's the beautiful thing. One, the expression through I feel a deeper level of connection you can feel to games through the expression of gameplay and feeling a lot of those connections. And Zao for me allowed for me to feel a lot more and to learn a lot more about different cultures and stuff like that through an expression of gameplay. And also with you mentioning sending these emails out, and once you kind of shifted your focus to being like, I'm not going to hide what this is about and I'm actually going to speak to it. I think from my perspective, if I got one of those emails, we have all been through, to a certain degree, been through those things and lost people and felt those emotions. And saying you're trying to craft art to communicate all of those feelings through gameplay, I think for me that's why a lot of these people were so willing to come work with you, not just because of your pedigree and your experience beforehand, but also because you were very clearly trying to make something that was trying to speak to the human experience in a very honest way. And I think that's what draws people in, because it just like you said, people respond to honesty and being human.
Yeah, it's one of those. That's the thing. It's like I think especially in the world of today, where we are, surrounded by social media, surrounded by content, we are constantly bombarded with content and stories and things. It's like the actual element of human connection or humanity can kind of be a bit diluted in it, right? And I think like one of the things that I really wanted to do, especially with the studio and especially with like the story that I wanted to tell, was focus on that, and hey Tina,
Hey.
and sort of kind of make sure that was at its core what it was about. It was about being human. And and look, I even starting the company and sort of bringing the company to where it's at now, like I've always been of that mentality of like, respect the developer and you'll respect the audience, and that kind of balance of like trying to bring that human aspect to it, I think has always been the key thing of what I've wanted to kind of conjure and craft from the beginning.
I
Yeah,
apologize for losing power and everything. Oh my God, it's my
No
biggest.
all
worries.
right.
But
No worries.
No
Welcome
person who
back.
lives here should apologize for losing power or
but
ever.
your
Really.
so your studio and your culture and just I heard you on Danny Dwyer's podcast talking about how you really trusted the creatives in their skill set,
Yeah.
and I wanted to say how refreshing and just so wholesome it felt to hear that, because that does not happen very often, especially in AAA. I will say,
Yep.
you're always kind of, you have a hammer coming down from above, and you're just like, you do this. And you're like, okay, hope it
Yeah,
works out.
and the truth is, like some of the best auteurs out there and artists and creators out there, and I think like, and again, I'm not trying to name drop, but like from my experience of working with Ridley Scott, for example, you learn that Ridley is where he's at because of the people that he surrounds himself with,
Hmm.
and I think like, and he knows that very well, and the people around him know that as well, and there is this level of trust that kind of comes out from him and the people that he works with that really brings this that just pushes the content that he creates to the next level. And I think
Yeah.
like for me, that was something that I really wanted to create and build. And look, don't get me wrong, like I remember even during the whole marketing campaign of Zao, like I was very much being like the face of it, because it's a very personal story, and the face of it, and the face of it. But like, I didn't build this game myself, man. Like it's the team. And I think like that has been, really kind of key and core to what makes a company or a studio. It's a group of people. So I had to have this level of trust. I had to, even though I was leading the charge and creatively directing, and I knew kind of what I wanted, I had to be vulnerable with my team and say like, look, I don't know how crazy this is or how much this is. I have to just trust you and tell, if you say that this is possible, I have to trust that. If you say that it isn't possible, I have to trust that. And rather than being like, no, I'm the creative director and lead and everything that I want has to be in the game. You know what I mean? And I'll never forget this like brilliant piece of advice that was given to me by it was the producer Zoe Brown, who again to this day like truly just remarkable. And she, if it wasn't for her, we wouldn't have got this game out in the time frame that we did. Like she just shipping a game is like so different to just making it and playing it. Like it's a different experience. But she was like, look, just get a clean game out. Just get it out. There's going to be a lot of things that you're not that you really wanted to be in it in this game, and you really wanted to try with it, but like ultimately,
what a good producer thing to say, man. I'm sorry.
Honestly, man, it's like she's just get a clean game out, and
Just
like
get it out there, man.
honestly, and I like to this day, I am so happy, and especially because of the size of like where we came to. Like it wasn't like this small indie game, right? It was like it's still indie, but it was under the EA original banner, so people have this expectation of what this is going to be. Then you've got Prince of Persia coming out, which is made by hundreds if not thousands of people, like trying to making this clean crisp game. So for us it's like, yo, just release a clean crisp game, man, and like get it out there, and you can build that way. Because I think a lot of people as well don't realize that when it comes to shipping a first game as a studio, the first game really, that isn't important in a weird way. It's about the team you build, because it's that team that then end up building the second game, then the third game, then the fourth game. And it's like you build that culture, you solidify that culture, that identity. That's where the fun happens. Whereas a lot of the time that first game is kind of like a miracle that it even happens, because you're working with strangers. You have no idea and trying to figure that out,
I have bad news for you. Every time you ship a game, it's going to be a miracle.
Great.
No video game should exist, because it just doesn't make sense that you could
It's a bit
get
like
enough
Phil.
people to do the
It
right
doesn't get
things.
easier. No.
It doesn't get
Okay.
easier, no. But this is the thing. But I think the one thing that I've really kind of learned from this whole process, which is kind of also why this, at this current time and the climate that we're in, it's like it's kind of surreal, is because really truly that building block of making the team of that first, that first instance is beautiful. Because once you got that one game out, you got that one game out with the team in the industry, you've now proven to not only yourself but to your peers as well, and to other industry professionals, that you guys can make a game, right? And then it's like, okay, cool, that's then the second game is kind of like a done deal. You're going to get that signed, and you're going to get that signed, but the climate that we're in today is like so volatile and so chaotic at the moment that it's almost like, okay, what do we do now?
I want to jump at what you just said too, because I feel like your studio is so perfect for the current climate, because both, the TV film industry and gaming are kind of in the same, almost like the same bubble right now. Everyone's kind of struggling, and I have personal friends that are trying to like cross into each other's industries to try to like get their next paycheck, and
right.
hopefully it improves. But yeah, your studio alone, just being able to go into both seamlessly.
It was one of the
incredible.
it was one of the key things that I really wanted to kind of craft and conjure at the beginning. It's why we actually even had like a rebrand during our time of development. Like beforehand, we were known as Silver Rain Games, but in my mind's eye, Silver Rain Games felt very separate to the production company, to the film company, and so I wanted to just kind of bleed it in together. It was all
Into
about
Yeah.
one.
storytelling.
That's cool.
Into Surgeon Studios, and you hear a lot of stories about like transmedia companies and all this sort of stuff, and it's like actually the secret sauce isn't about being this kind of like company that can do um you know uh the same IP and film, TV, and whatever. No, it's just about being able to make, content in all these different spaces and tell stories, decent stories, and all this sort of stuff. So, yeah, it was. It's been very fortunate, like very good for us, because then in my head, or in from my experience, I can have the conversations with film companies as well as game sort of publishers, which has been really really interesting to kind of do and really cool to kind of play with.
100%.
Do you know what genre you're gonna make next? Is there
Oh,
any sort
I
of
have I've got everything ready, and it's weird. And like this is the thing, like it's we've got like we're currently like shopping it at the moment, and it is that kind of period of time where you're like, okay, it's really exciting. It's great. I think when people see it, people are gonna be like, what the hell is going on here?
I
And
can't
it's
speak
funny,
to it
like
much right now, right? Because
I
you're shipping it about.
yeah, I really can't. Yeah, but the thing is
Yeah.
that I came up with this. This was part of the plan. This was like and this is again like part of my experience of like this game that we're currently like kicking around. It was it was part of the plan and the journey of telling sort of the Tales of Kenzera sort of story franchise world, right? And it was I come up with it like I think 2 years into development of Zao, so it was already cooking in the back of my mind. But after years of building Zao and hearing other people, they're all like, no, you got to build a different IP, you got to change stuff, da 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 da, and then the industry decides to kind of flip on itself, and no one has any idea what they're doing. So as the typical artist of what you do, you're like, fuck it, I'm just going to do what I want to do. So now we're shopping. Now we're shopping this game around, and it's amazing how like what's the word? How easy it is to kind of share and build upon an idea that you actually feel passionate about, rather than the kind of idea that you think other people want to make. So like, easily could jump into the bandwagon of being like, oh yeah, let's make a game, a live service sort of, shooter. And it's like, you don't want to build that, but people for some unknown reason are throwing stupid money at it. So you're like, oh, well, it just makes sense. But then what ends up happening is tragedy. So you don't want to kind of go down that route. So yeah, you just build what you gotta love, man.
That passion is infectious as well, though. Like,
It is.
some of the best ideas that I've heard from people or people pitching is just like they come with this small idea, and like you were saying, Abubakar, with building a team that you trust and that you're passionate about working with, you can share one tiny idea, and it just starts bouncing between the team, and it just grows, and
it grows, man.
Everyone gets hype, and it's so good.
It's incredible. Like again, it's that whole thing of like the communicate, because we were building this other game internally and kind of workshopping this other game internally, and we were feeling it, but like it kind of wasn't like I feel like it was almost like, and I admit, like there was a feeling of like maybe we're just trying to appease a certain vibe, right? And it was there, but it wasn't. And like the thing is, this is it. The team can build it, absolutely, because we're the team are builders, like we're creators, we're artists. But you need that fuel, right? And the difference from like the first sort of iteration of what our next game was going to be to like the game that we're on today, vastly different. Like within like the space of like a month, what the team have built, conjured and created, and just keep evolving, prototyping and playing, it's like to the point where I'm almost like I'm like this close, and I know that my team would hate me for doing it, but like I'm this close to like sending like 100 codes on Twitter and being like, everyone just play it now. It's like it's Grey Box, but play it because it's because we really care about it, because we really love it and we really enjoy it, and it's just such a difference.
Yeah, I'm having that experience right now with this. I'm working on 2 games, but the second one I'm working on, which I also can't speak too much to because
Right.
it's under a lot of stuff. But we've had that same experience. We've just hit that kind of pinnacle in our prototype where everything's fallen into place and it feels
Yeah.
nice. And it's like, oh man, I just want to send this to everyone and just have everyone play it just to kind of experience it. It's that kind of excitement though is what you need to trudge through a lot of the tedium, because making games isn't all fun, right? Like there's a lot
No.
of busy work, there's a lot of arduous stuff that needs to be done, so you need that kind of passion to push through literal years of development to get these things ready for
Yeah,
the
100%.
wider audiences.
I'm curious to know if there, and not just for everybody in here, because I'm thinking of my own experience with that, and I'm thinking of like actually a specific moment. Like I do think it kind of came down to a specific moment or feature. For us at New World, we were making like a modern military shooter, and then we decided, oh, like wouldn't it be cool if like you could call stuff in like from the sky or something? But that doesn't make sense, right? Because it's like counterinsurgency operations, and we're going for a more low scale thing. But the Second World War was pretty high scale. What if you could call it, and then it just kind of snowballed from there? And we made Day of Infamy, like a World War II shooter where you could call in artillery and planes. Like it was an escalation and natural growth of our adversarial multiplayer experience through this mechanic, through this feature. And that got us all excited. And then we were like, we made a mod for our own game, released that for free just because we were excited. I'm curious if there was like a moment for you guys too that you could talk about it, where like there was a mechanic or a feature that then snowballed into this great path of excitement.
Yeah, I'd say for Zhao, like it definitely was, like and I think the way that I've sort of approached a lot of the stuff that we conjure, like I always think about the pad, right? I always think about like what the player's going to be feeling, how they're going to be playing, how they're going to be playing, and thinking about the emotion as well. And for us, it was the mask switching. It was the element of being like, I knew from the get go, like in a way of being able to convey a true feeling of like what is it about grief that that sort of in my eyes hasn't been really depicted much. Oh, it's the different masks that you wear depending on who you're talking to, and like and I the way the mask that I wear when talking to my mother is very different to the mask that I wear when talking to like a friend, even though I am still suffering, the person behind it is still suffering from grief. And so for me it was like, oh, okay, cool, so it's very different characters. How do we conjure that and create that kind of experience in a game space that, how do we convey that? Oh, right, a button that you're able to literally switch between. So it isn't a weapon wheel, because a weapon wheel, you've got time. You've got time to kind of select and do whatever you've got to do. It has to be something that you can flip really fast between and still kind of conjure that and create that different experience. And that's essentially where we cracked it. And to begin, and what's really funny though is like at the beginning, I really wanted all these different masks. I wanted like 4 or 5 different masks that you could wear as a whole, because again very reflective of the people that you're talking to, the environments that you interact with. But we realized that to flip between 5 masks is very, very hard. It's like trying to flip between a shotgun pistol, whatever. Like it's hard to just do on one button.
You went for elegance, is what you
So we
went
went
for.
Exactly. And I think like that's why we went down to 2, and it made sense, and and the feeling was conveyed a lot easier, a lot simple. Like the idea of like a melee based character and a shooter, like it just made sense. And I think like that once you've found that, you then begin developing everything else. And that's where the game element became really exciting. The mechanic, it's like, okay, cool, how do we kind of double down on this mechanic? Where do we kind of place challenges that are based around this mechanic, and play into it? Like, and we found some stuff that didn't work and some stuff that really did work, and that's essentially the brilliance and the brilliance of it all. It's like when you do find that thing, and don't get me wrong, like sometimes it takes time, right? Like one sort of mechanic that kind of, or one element that kind of came later in our game was, funnily enough, the shielded enemies. Like being able to kind of the different colored shielded enemies. You would have thought like that would be like the first thing that would come to mind, especially within development, right? But actually, it came much later down the line, and that was discovered. That then became fun, and it's like, oh, okay, cool. As long as we kind of adhere and listen to what is fun and follow that fun and chase that fun, like everything else will come down the line. So that's kind of, that was sort of one mechanic we found very early on that evolved over time from like 5 masks to then 2, as a whole.
Did you ever play Ikaruga by any chance? Top-down shooter, switch between black and white.
No, I didn't.
Okay. Because when I was playing, I was reminded of that, and I did I used the word elegance, but Ikaruga had like a similar mechanic. They understood the simplicity of the Japanese game, and I love when design does that. I love when design is like clear and simple, but actually super impactful, right? Just between two things, but then you get all this gameplay. So anyway, sorry, Jay, what were you saying?
Yeah, it's a really good example of. So I'm usually a big proponent of, as a game designer, first, I'm always a big proponent of like bottom-up design, like having a mechanical bed that you then build a narrative and a through line on top of it. But Abubakar, what you just said is a beautiful example of top-down. Like you altered your mechanical expressions and access with, like you were speaking of, instead of using a wheel, you used a button press to better narratively convey an emotion and a state to the player. That is such a beautiful example of like top down design and like focusing on what because there's no right answer, right? Bottom up, top down. It's dependent on the project. And Zao, I think from what you've just said, is a beautiful example of taking what is narratively and emotionally important and seeing how you can have the mechanics better express that, and then having it be a more elegant and a better format for that from that decision making. I think that's fascinating.
And look, and I think like everyone definitely has their own way of working, right? And I think I think because of my background as an actor, the first thing that comes to mind is the emotions, right? And like the emotion that you're trying to convey, or the emotion that you're trying to portray. And I think that's where I'm comfortable in. So in my head, I'm trying to then now communicate that to the designers and to the artists and to the to the coders and to the the sound team and to the and it's like, can you guys take this feeling and go with it? And I think like that, then that's the challenge, right? It's communicating the feeling to someone else who thinks very differently. But what I have found through my experience is, by giving them space to sort of react. And that's the great, the trick to, again, acting is letting the other person react and then you react to it, rather than kind of thinking, no, it has to be this way. By letting other people react, they come up with something better. And I think that's what has been really cool about, again, trusting the team.
The past 10 minutes has sounded like you giving a TED talk on how to be an amazing creative director. And I know you've only worked on one game, but you sound so experienced and senior. It's unbelievable. I'm not even, I'm not making that up. Like, it's crazy. You're getting out of your way and letting other people like collaborate with you. It's
so important.
I just want to give you your flowers. It's crazy.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. But it's like, I think that's the thing. I find it so amazing that like you end up getting a lot of people who are really stuck in a way in which it needs to be. And it's hindering, because at the end of the day, we're all artists. Like, we all have a story to tell, so tell it. And I think, giving people the space to do that. Sometimes it's the right thing, sometimes it isn't. And I think that for me, I've always as well like said to the team, like I'd rather hear the crazy ideas and the crazy thoughts and say, no to that, and say why it might not work for it, but still bank it, than you just kind of doing what I tell you to do. Because because then that's just boring. Then you're just following orders. Like, where's the fun in that? Like, and I think like it's
I think a lot of AAA devs are going, oh.
Yes.
But it's so true. It's like you're following orders, man. And it's so boring to just be told like don't get me wrong, like don't go around and
Oh yeah, there's nuance to
kind
it,
of,
right?
there's nuance
Yeah,
to it, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But like even like this was what was also really hilarious. So even starting the studio, we went through this whole phase of like on a business side, conjuring the contract and all this sort of stuff, and which was hilarious. That's another beast that you have to deal with, the lawyers and the admin and whatever of running an actual studio. Anyway, and I remember the lawyer at the time asking like, "Oh, so what do you think of people making games during their employment?" And I'm like, "Yeah, man, do it. Like, have them make their own games. Like, if they have time for it, sure, like, go for it." Like, I remember getting this look from him, being like, "That what if they make like the next Minecraft? Like, surely it should be under like." The banner of Surgeon or like the banner of Silver Rain. I'm like, nah, like we're in a creative field. Like I'm writing all sorts of different ideas and thoughts and cool stories while I'm working on TV shows and whatnot. Like doesn't mean that it's owned by Warner or whoever. So like giving them the freedom and the amount of developers who were like, wait,
Holy crap.
you're okay with me like
Yeah.
trialing and building? Are you sure? I'm like, yeah, but this is the thing. It's like, but that's how it should be, because then
it's how you build loyalty, right?
Like, and it's
people
like,
want to be there and want to share, and want to be with you,
And and who's to say, like, they might come up with a really cool idea, for example, then through their own game, share it with you, and then you might be like, oh, that's really cool, and that would maybe spark them to think of the problems and stuff that we're facing with our current game in a different light, and it's like. Because that's just creative thinking. That's just problem solving. And so, yeah,
preach, motherfucker.
It's
keep going. You gotta tell all these publishers, like, come on.
Honestly,
let them be creative.
Yeah, blows my mind.
I got a question. Here, let's hear about it from the other end, because it's definitely true. When you're in that leadership position, you got to let people do their thing. Nowadays, we say you got to let them cook, and it's true. When's the time where, and this is for everybody, not just for you, Abubakar. When's the time where, as a leader, you had to go, I'm sorry, guys, I need you to trust me. We got to do it this way. Because that I find in leadership roles, that's one of the toughest things you could do.
I have a story about that.
Oh, please.
On Apex Legends. So I think the biggest thing, I was hired at Respawn to be their single player producer for Titanfall 3. And that was in development when I got there. And I saw the game, I played it, it was amazing. And then out of like what seemed like nowhere, well, it wasn't really nowhere, there was just stuff happening behind the scenes. The team decided, hey, we're going to make this battle royale shooter. We got a map blocked out. It's fun as hell. We're going to kill Titanfall 3 and do this new game. And the whole studio was like, what? Some people resisted. A lot of designers were all for it because they are the ones that made the prototype. But it took, I want to say, like a month or two of just convincing and dragging people into making this game, which ended up, I think it worked out. But
that's a great game. Yeah, very well received. It's true.
That was one that comes to mind in my career. It's just like, get rid of this thing. We're doing this new thing.
And was that something
you feel like? Yeah, good. Sorry.
Yeah, was that something where you feel like the higher ups were asking for that kind of, you need to trust us, like this is what we feel is best for the studio, the franchise and stuff like that? Do you feel like they were asking for that permission? Not that they would need to. In AAA, they could just go fuck yourselves. But do you reckon they had that kind of energy of listen to us, like this is what we need to do?
So I'm pretty sure that decision was made around the time or before EA bought Respawn.
Okay.
And so like the final nail in the coffin to do it was after EA purchased Respawn. And they're, to EA's credit, they kind of just said, like, we're not convinced, but like convince us. Because in the contract that said we had to put out a Titanfall 3. I mean, I don't want to take away from, the conversation with Abubakar, but it was like pulling teeth and it was a struggle a little bit. But especially when you tell people, oh, we're going to go up against Fortnite, which at the time didn't have very many competitors. We're like, are you insane? But we realized when we played Fortnite and I forgot the other name of the other shooter.
PUBG?
Yes, PUBG, thank you. Battle Royale at night. It was kind of janky, right? Like everything was in beta all the time,
Mm.
Streamy Jack.
and the guys, worked on COD and Titanfall, and they were like, we could do better, and they
Mm.
were right.
Yeah, very true.
And
Yeah, I'd say like there have been many like not I say many, quite a few moments of just being like, trust me, um,
Mhm.
in regards to direction and elements of that as a whole, and I think, if, funnily enough, like I've had to learn a lot through this process because again, this is the first time I'm running a company, running a studio. I've had to gain a lot of confidence in sort of being that kind of person who's like, no, this is the way I need it to be done. Just trust me here.
Mhm.
And I'd say like now in the evolution of where we're going now, I feel like that I'm beginning to find my feet more. Whereas actually with Zhao, there is that there is a double-edged sword of sometimes you can kind of put trust in voices and elements of it, like being like, oh no, actually I don't think that's going to work. And then like for example, like our skill system, we didn't have a sort of method like this progression of like the character of purchasing skills until right last minute, and that was mainly there was quite a few
Really?
factors, right? Yeah, I know it was, and like keep in mind like there was. Okay, so this is here's the tea. Like so like
Yes.
so there is so look so skills was something that came very very last minute because it was cut because we just, and there was a few factors. One, we didn't, our team was still needing, we still needed like quite a few coders and quite a strong code team in order to kind of actually get the skills that we wanted in place in there. It was still evolving, it was still trying to figure it out. So we were like, okay, look, we just want to make that clean game, make it really good, don't make something
Yep.
janky that doesn't make any sense. Take out skills. Then as we were playing it, we were realizing, why are we doing this? We need skills, we need like experience points, we need to purchase skills, we need to do it. So that came like in really really last minute. And it passes, it does its thing. Right now, enemies is a really interesting one because again, we had designed at the beginning like 23 odd different enemies. Like we had a ton of designs of these different kind of spiritual beings and elements and African kind of like enemies that you could go with and fight. But conjuring and crafting that was going to be a problem, and I had to trust my team. I had to listen to my team, and they literally, I remember them saying like, look, if we build all these enemies, every single one of them is going to feel like jank. The AI is just not going to perform very well. It's just going to feel really, really silly.
You're stretching the
stupid.
team thin.
You're stretching the team thin, right? And so, and this was that moment of like, I remember being and saying, saying in my head, no, this is where I've got to be like, no, guys, you've got to do this. Trust me. I should put my foot down as a leader and say, trust me, right? Thank God I didn't, because even though we don't have many enemies in our game, at least they play well. Like at least they work. Whereas with skills, again, it was that whole moment of like, no, we need skills, put your foot down. Thank God we did, because at least now the player feels like there's a progression. So it's a funny dance. Like you've got to do
mystery balance.
It's you just never know. And but at the same time, there is this sense of like, at the end of the day, you've got to take the risk. You've got to take the plunge. Like if I remember again listening to I'd pitched this game idea, this African mythology based game to quite a few publishers. It was like 3 or 4. I say a few. That was again at a time when I didn't even know that you needed a publisher to make a game. I just thought like, hey, I'll just make a game and just put it out.
You
there.
learned everything on the fly, and you did
literally.
Yeah.
But I remember, one publisher coming back and being like, "Oh, African mythology is too niche. No one's gonna like it. You should think of doing something that everyone understands."
Can you tease
And
the publisher's name?
I'm not gonna drop. I mean,
You want to burn those fuckers?
not doing very well anyway at the moment. But like, I remember them saying that. I remember thinking, actually, you know what? No, I got to stick to my guns here. And
Yeah.
thank God I did, because then EA were
yeah.
like, this is dope. This is really, really cool. And so,
Yeah.
it's that thing of like, you've got to sometimes just be like, like just fight it, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I bought the game.
That's
It's
not
great.
it's not an uncommon
Yeah.
thing to hear, you know.
Yeah.
I kind of get it because publishers are thinking about like broader appeal. Let's make sure that people can relate to
Oh,
this
totally.
experience. But at the same time, like it would not be that has to be what the game is. I'm thinking of another team that I know that like had a very similar experience. Their culture is expressed through the game, and it needs to be there. And the publisher said, "Well, we love your gameplay, but like, can you change the setting and cultural aspect?" And they were like, "Well, no, because like that's personal to us, and that's what we want to say.
Yeah.
It makes us stand out too. Isn't that good enough for the market?" But every publisher has a different perspective on that, so
Yeah.
it's a bit of a shame.
Yeah. Sovereign for 10 euros says, just want to say the passion you showed back at the VGAs when revealing Zhao got me to wish list right away. Really enjoyed it. Gave me all the feels. So a big thanks to you and your team.
Oh, thank you. Oh, that was. You know
Mhm.
what's funny about that moment? I had, and I honestly, I gotta give some real respect to Jeff, man. Jeff Keighley, man. Like he champions indie developers like on another scale. Like, so I had bumped into him at the BAFTAs, which was like it was the year before. Was it the year before? Or was it the same year? I think at the 2023. I can't remember, but it was. I bumped into him at the BAFTAs at this after party thing. And he was just doing his thing, and like I really I was like, hey man, this is the guy who like this is like the president of games. Like I'm gonna go say hi. So
The gaming
like
republic.
literally, honestly. So I was like, I'm gonna go say hi. So I want to go say hi to him, and he's a really lovely guy. And and I was like, hey, by the way, I'm doing this. I'm doing this. I'm making this game as well, like which is kind of based on kind of African mythology. And again, this is like loud music, craziness. He doesn't need to talk to me. There's like
Sure.
Sony's like on another table, like PlayStation, like Xbox are over there, like all these like incredible developers. And he was like, oh, okay, tell me more. And I kind of just like pitched him this game, and he was like, you should show it at the awards. And I was like, huh? And so what was great about it though, obviously, you went through the whole process of like I had to tell EA, like Jeff said, like we can show our game at the awards. And he was like, and even EA were like, there's a process. You gotta
There's a process.
there is a
Abubakar,
process
please.
here, dude. Like, come on, man. But what was amazing was the fact that like this guy, Jeff, like literally Jeff was like, you know what? I think this is gonna mean a lot more if you get on stage and talk about it. And I was like, wait, you're not just gonna, just let me do like a trailer, and because I would have been happy with just a trailer and been like, yo, my trailer was at the Game Awards. Like that's like that to me is like a cool thing to tell like your schoolmates. You know what I mean? But he was like, no, you need to go in and tell your story. And I am forever thankful for that, because if it wasn't for that moment, I don't think we would have, it wouldn't have, the PlayStation deal, for example, probably wouldn't have happened. Like the amount of kind of coverage we got with Xbox, the BBC, like it wouldn't have happened. And it was because, I think Jeff really he gave us a shot. And it just really kind of again, like I'm so forever thankful for that, because it was so powerful.
So what you're saying is you weren't multi-platform until after you presented at the VGAs.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much.
Wow.
Like, I mean, like we were aiming for it, like we were building towards it, right? But like, as I say, like the PS Plus deal, or like the coverage, the amount of coverage we got, like with having trailers and like, and this was the other cool thing, right? It's like. And like, don't get me wrong. Like, I think there's all this. I think console wars is such the biggest myth and lie ever. Like, everyone talks to everyone back, behind the scenes. Like, it's what it is. That's the industry, right? We're all in the same industry, and so. But the fact that we were able to like get like a PlayStation, slot and a trailer there, with also Nintendo Switch, with also like Xbox, like it's never heard of. Like it's really hard, but you've got the people behind the stuff who saw the the presentation at the Game Awards, saw the story behind it, they saw the humanity behind it, and they were like, yeah, we want to champion this.
Yeah.
And it was just, yeah, it was. And again, it wouldn't have happened if, if good old Jeff didn't say, "Hey, buddy, you want to get on stage?" Like it was
You,
He seems like
really,
a real idealist. I feel like gaming's lucky to
yeah.
have him.
Do you ever
honestly,
He believes in
yeah.
the medium so much.
He,
I don't know him
and this is
personally. I'm
it.
just saying it
Like,
seems
no,
that way.
but this is it, right? That's the thing. Like, I think obviously there's elements of business and what you need to do and all that kind of jazz that you got to play. You got to play the industry and the game to a degree. But when I tell you, like, there is a level of actual genuine love for the medium
Mhm.
that this man shows and brings. It's ridiculous. Like it's truly, like, it's incredible. Like he's incredibly successful and does his thing, knows the people, but it's the fact that also he just loves games.
Yeah.
He loves games. And I think like that's what's really cool about it. Like there's no hate for it. Anyway.
I need to mention one thing, or
Mm.
so when a lot of developers get on stage, we all are sort of introverted and kind of not used to being in the public eye. And you always see memes about people like holding their hands by their by their waist, like not really knowing what to do on stage, kind of
Yeah.
uncomfortable in the body. And
Tuck to the thighs.
you were in theater, you're an actor.
Yeah.
That obviously gave you some sort of comfort in being on stage in front of all those people. Do you ever reflect on the fact that everything you've done has led you to this moment on being on stage and creating your own game, like with the
Yeah.
experience with your dad, all the games you've played, being in these shows? Like, how does that make you feel now?
Yeah, it's very surreal, very weird.
Yeah.
And then the journey of it as a whole is very kind of surreal. Like I think, like, yeah, even being on stage, that to this day was definitely still the scariest moment for me. Like, and as I said, like I've been on stage 101 times, but that's mainly because I'm playing a character. So it's, if people are gonna have a comment, they're commenting on the character rather than necessarily like me as the actor, so I can kind of shut off. Whereas here, it felt like I was being very kind of like myself, very raw, right, and very open,
And a
and
vulnerable
it's like
vulnerable
Yeah.
topic.
man. And look, and don't get me wrong, like I know gamers. I'm a gamer myself. Like I know what we're gonna say and what we're gonna watch. Like most of
Yeah.
the time, people are gonna be like, "Shut up and just show me the game." Like I don't, that's always playing. But at the same time, I do think like, yeah, there is this element that kind of a very surreal sort of moment of like, yeah, we've gone through all of this that has led me to this, to the space, this place of being like, hey, I'm gonna just, I'm here telling this game. And even like now, like I look at like where we are now, the industry being in this sort of weird kind of space of uncertainty. And I kind of think like if it wasn't for me being an actor, I probably wouldn't feel so, not necessarily chill about it, but like I wouldn't have this mentality of like, oh, it's gonna get better. Because again, as an actor, you have to get used to the idea of that every job that you do, or the job that you last did, might be your last job, because this industry is just ridiculous. So it's I do feel lucky, but at the same time, I'm also terrified of what else and what other stories are going to come.
Yeah.
I do want to bring up one thing that I can commiserate with you on, that I have that I felt when you're when I hear about your experience on other podcasts and interviews, and also what I've seen you post on social media, is that being a minority, I've always felt like talking about the adversity that you face almost gives it more power, so you try to minimize it and put it to the side and ignore it. But then that like anxiety and pressure of being a developer or a creative type really gets to you at some point, and you just explode, and you kind of in a way where you're not really carrying yourself professionally. Like I've seen devs crack under pressure of the insults and comments they get. And how do you do it? Like, how do you navigate the adversity? And I can only imagine
it's been, I'll tell you
criticism
like that. It's been a journey.
Mhm.
I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
In the sense of like, again, like I think it's very like as I was saying earlier, like as an actor, I've had many weird comments, like, and I've said this before, like even with Raised by Wolves and even with, even now with like House of the Dragon, you get those weird sort of comments that kind of come out, and you're just a bit like, why don't you just see me for the role that I am, rather than necessarily this political agenda or whatever that we're trying to do, right?
Yeah.
But as an actor, it's it's a lot easier to kind of shut off. It still hurts because it's personal, but you can kind of shut it off. But whereas in games, especially with this, because it is so personal and because it is so like directly
So
linked,
vulnerable.
it's very vulnerable, so it
Yeah.
feels very close. And I think, like, again, entering we released a game in a very political time. The UK was going through its own political like elements, with France as well, with the US, with like everywhere, it was high. It was very charged. Everyone's emotions was very charged. And I think, like, I'll be honest, like, I'm still trying to figure out how to navigate the ridiculousness and the kind of mad stories that kind of come out, and mad things that people say. I think the one thing that because I went through a whole phase of being like, if I'm just silent and I just ignore it, then it will, you say you won't give it power.
Yep.
You're just not giving it power. It will always be there, but you're just not giving it power, right? You're ignoring it. You're not giving it oxygen. And then, there was a moment where I just had to say something, because I realized, and I was just thinking to myself, man, this is not only affecting me, but it's affecting so many other people. And also the narrative of what we had conjured was, because no one was talking about it from our side, or like from our kind of experience, the narrative was almost being snatched and being taken and spoken about by other people. So I felt like I had to say something. I had to fight and, do something. And then I realized after that as well, and going through that whole phase of like, and I think this is the thing, I came in with a sense of, if I can talk openly and be honest, if I can just be myself and just be like, look at me as a human being, right? Forget the color of my skin, forget all this stuff. Like, let's just talk about it as on a human level. Maybe we can find some middle ground. And I don't mind not agreeing on the same topics, or, agree to disagree. Like, I don't mind that. What I just want to do is find a middle ground, right? In the same way, it's like trying to, and I guess what the craziest way of saying it is like, how can you agree with a racist? Be like, let's just agree to disagree. But like, you know what I mean? Like, and I kind of came to that realization of like, oh yeah, mate, like, some people's identity are completely crafted through hate and through anger and through a feeling of feeling wronged and feeling, unjust. And that's people's identity. So if I'm there to be like, hey buddy, actually, I want to change, like, I want you to think of it or see it this way. I'm challenging now your identity. It's going to be personal. It's not going to work. And so I went through this phase of like, actually, you know what? There's just sometimes maybe no talking. There's no middle ground here. There's no way of meeting here. There's no solution.
There's no winning them
here.
over, right?
There's no winning them over, because their identity is so crafted and built upon this stance, that to challenge that is to challenge them and their ideals and their beliefs and their thoughts, and they're not going to shift from that. They don't want to shift from that. And I think like, and I think like that's where now I'm in this space of like, okay, great. Well, anything that I have control of, like, then I'll just, I'll shut it down. So for example, like our Steam page actually is a really good example of this. Our Steam sort of forum was full of like madness, and we let that happen.
That's where the bad shit is, man.
Oh man, dude, like it was.
For real.
It's a dark place.
It can get very bad. It can get very bad.
Yeah.
I guess I should
It was
It's
crazy.
the Wild West.
It got to a point where like, again, we were like, okay, we're just gonna let it go. We're just gonna let everyone talk and kind of express themselves, because there's always good people out there, or people who want another, who are going to be like, hey, I'm going to call you on your bullshit. And it happened, like that happened. But ultimately there was a lot of noise. And for a while we were like, no, it's good for people to have conversation here. It's good for people to express themselves and kind of, maybe they can learn something out of it. And then it just got to the point where I was like, screw this, man. We're just going to like delete and ban anyone who comes in here, because we have control over here, because it's just noise, it's nonsense. Like, you're doing it for the sake of it. And I think that's the thing. Like, I don't know if there isn't even a right or wrong way of dealing with it, but you find a way that you can kind of handle it. And like for me, it's been like our way of handling it has been like not to engage and just not to be like it's like allow it now. Like, you know what I mean? Like you can have your own opinions and thoughts there, mate, but I know who I am, so I'm just gonna go with it that way. You know?
Yeah. I respect that. I want to segue a little bit into an uncomfortable conversation because, there's a lot of layoffs happening in both industries.
Yeah.
And we did get a question from Tyler Boyce. Thank you for donating $5 about layoffs. So he says, Hi, Abubakar. Respectfully, is there anything you wish you had done differently to avoid needing layoffs at Surgeon? Any advice to prevent mass layoffs?
Oh, that's rough. I mean, it's a tough question.
Yeah.
Because you kind of, and look, I can't speak for anyone else's experience and any other company's experience as well as a whole. Like, I can only speak from mine. And, I again, running a business and running a studio, you try and prepare for everything. That's the thing. Like you've got backup plan A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and like you kind of go for it. But like I think the way in which this industry is kind of like what's happened today or what's happening today, I don't think anyone could have planned for it. In the same way that I don't think anyone could have planned for what what happened with the industry during COVID. And I think that's the thing. Like when I look back at it, I can't. And there's two mindsets. There is the person in me that's always asking the questions of like, oh man, maybe I should have done this, or maybe I should have spoken to this person, or maybe I should have spoken to that person, or maybe I should have spoken to got money from this place or that place or wherever. But then there's the other side of me that's like, oh, but what can I? The only thing I can do is act upon the scenario and situation that I'm in today, and we can only make the best of the best of what we can now. And it's horrible. Like it's again, like you've got to think like, and this is the other thing as well. So I'm dealing with the way that the industry is kind of going and performing and happening, because the layoffs were not. And this is from me, like honestly, the layoffs that kind of like we've experienced were not tied to the performance of Zao. They weren't. But I'm being told now that they were on Twitter or like on or whatever. And
they're very qualified.
Do you know what I mean? And then I'm thinking like, oh, but is it? But then it isn't, because there are so many other factors, be it other publishers. I mean, like look at what fucking happened with Annapurna, like literally yesterday.
It's
crazy.
What I mean?
And
24 people walked away.
Do you know what I mean? And that's got nothing to do with like like their games performing not very well or whatever. Like no, there's all these other factors and things that are happening behind the scenes that you have no control over, even as a developer. So you really truly you have no control over stuff. You can only as a businessman react to the scenario of where you are and what you've been given in, right?
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I think like the games industry as a whole is still sort of evolving. It's still very young.
Yeah.
And I think like we are told a lot of the time, especially with the kind of when you're working with like studios like with EA or places like that, you're told to just continue to grow and build and throw more money at a situation. And I actually don't think that's the right thing to do. I think actually we should be listening and following people like Supergiant, or where essentially like they keep their team cool and calm and like
feeling back is something
like,
that's really beneficial.
It's really beneficial. I think we should that should be happening more. But the problem is the infrastructure and the way that the industry is kind of built at the moment doesn't necessarily champion that in a weird way.
No, I agree with you. Because like, especially in live service, when, the publisher's telling you compete with that number one game over there that has over 1,000 devs. How are you going to do that with 130? You can't. You got to scale. And then when you scale and then maybe it doesn't work out, then layoffs. It's unfortunate. And it's beyond a creative's control.
Yeah, and the thing is as well, like I think the good thing about it, and this is why I love the games industry as well, is like it's like we only hear about the layoffs in the games industry, when actually every creative industry right now are struggling. You mentioned it earlier, like the film and TV space.
Yeah, especially in LA.
Yeah,
LA is
in
gone.
the chat.
Yeah.
Speakeasy just dropped it in the industry wide. It's an industry wide thing. Disney furloughed over 100,000 workers last year.
Yep.
Is it like? Do you see what like it is?
It's
and this
chaotic.
is happening across different kind of production companies and whatnot. And I think like, but the thing is like the games industry, we are so open. We are so kind of like, again, be it either through the development, but also through the hells and nightmares that we go through, that you kind of hear a lot about it. But like, it's happening across the board, and I think it is. It's this. The infrastructure just needs a vibe
Overhaul.
check.
Yeah,
it needs a vibe check. It really does.
I think we should transition into something more wholesome and funny and fun.
Some heavy shit. We got
heavy deep shit.
We got layoffs and all of entertainment.
Yeah.
It's all good. I like it.
Abubakar, at the end of every episode, we do something fun where we do an improv game pitch. It was inspired by Double Fine's Amnesia Fortnite documentary. So I grab a photo, I show it to the guys. They've never seen it before.
Okay.
And we try to come up with a game pitch from it.
Okay.
Improv game pitch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I love this.
It's a lot of fun.
So Eric, are you ready?
Oh God, Tina.
I saw this image today on Twitter.
Yeah.
Wait. So remember, hold on. There's a lot of people that are not watching right now. They're listening.
Yes.
So Abubakar, would you please describe the image?
I am seeing the cutest baby hippopotamize. Maybe is that like a proper way of putting it?
It's the same. It's the same baby. It's just two photos of.
Oh, okay, right. Yeah. And it's the one that like seems to bite everything, right? It's the really fat, chubby one, but it's really cute. And one of them's like being blasted with water, which is hilarious.
So
She's loving it.
Her name is Moo Dang, and you can find her on social media. She's taking over. Yeah, like all over Asia. Like everyone loves her. Right, and she's like a tiny little thing.
What's not to love?
That you can find her on Twitter. You can find her on TikTok, wherever you get your local social media posts. She's just taking over the internet by storm. So
I love Moodang, my favorite.
I had two ideas to pitch to you guys, and we can roll with anything else if you don't like both of them.
Okay.
So at this point in time, I don't feel like Kirby from Nintendo has had a competitor. Right, in the gaming space. So I'm thinking Moodang could be that challenger that destroys Kirby. Another pitch is, let's take Moodang from the ground and put her in the sky. So let's make her a pilot like Star Fox.
Oh shit.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I'd love to spend a day in your brain, Tina, honestly.
Yeah.
I like it. Go on.
I think that's pretty cool.
You like the pilot?
I kind of like that. Yeah, I kind of like
Hippo pilot.
And I'm imagining, and that's the thing. I think I don't know why the first thing I thought of was like, just like strap a cannon to them and make them like a cheap version of Blastoise and but
like Rocket Man.
We can have like we can have like the same effect that what's that crazy game that came out? The Pokemon with guns game that came out like
Power World.
Power World.
We can do like our own like Power World with Moodang and like be like just strap a cannon to them but I think the fighter pilot is a lot cleaner, definitely.
I like the strap a cannon idea.
Why not?
Hey, she's so tiny, right? And the cannon would be like twice
air
as big.
Operations.
It can be like a Titanfall vibe, like they're running around like shooting things, and then they like call their like fighter jet that comes in and swoops in, and then you've got like aerial combat too. I think that makes sense.
I really like the juxtaposition. Have you guys seen the Mario movie?
Yes, the latest one.
Yeah.
Chris Pratt?
Okay, so for Abubakar, there's like a little Luma, like a little star character that's really cute, and it talks in a little baby voice, but it says like the most unhinged, like
like
depressing
dialogue.
things. And I love the idea of just like a special operations baby hippo that like speaks like a little baby and is like, but is the most like lethal,
Oh, brilliant.
like brutal. Yeah, there they are. And so they're like, okay, so what are they called again?
Mudang
What
is
was
her name.
Mudang. They're like, okay, Mudang, we've got 4 hostages in this building, and you know you have to go clear it out. And they're like, okay, let's go. And like they're strapped up to the nines.
I need a
with their
blueprint of the
assault
ventilation shafts.
yeah, they like kicking, like jumping up in the air, and with all 4 of their feet, like kicking a door in, and then
Just like,
getting
"No."
in, clearing the yeah.
Brilliant.
And I just
Can we
I
have
want
a
that
squirrel with gun
juxtaposition.
style takedowns
Oh,
as she's
definitely.
coming in and infiltrating and then executing these ne'er do well
Oh, man.
terrorists?
I can imagine biting the like the neck and just ripping it
Yeah,
out. and
'cause it's a
blood
hippo with the
spurting
huge-
everywhere, right? Yeah, it's just
You're talking
crushing
like-
head.
Huge jaws and teeth.
Mortal Kombat style executions, fatalities with
Yeah, this
Mudang.
This is what
Yeah.
happens when you give like boys your idea. By the way, just so
Yeah.
you know, it's like, yeah, they just like come in and bite your head off, and it just blows up.
Tina led with putting them in a jet, so
That's
you
true.
started it that way.
Tina's on board.
This is a very diverse, skilled hippo, is what I'm hearing.
Definitely.
Because you've
100%.
got
Yeah.
like infiltration, solid snake skills, Star Fox, air combat, and then some sort of ground operation. What's the ground component? What's like the ground vehicle thing with a cannon strapped on, like a mech? Maybe a mech or like a power suit or something.
I actually no. Let's sci-fi it. Like let's supernatural it up, right? Let's say like every time like Mudang eats like someone or an enemy, they get bigger and like they.
Yeah,
start,
that's like
you
the
know, kind of
Kirby
evolve,
element,
like,
right?
you know
Oh,
what
I
I
love
mean?
how we're doing
Yeah,
all
they
of it.
start, like
Uh-huh.
growing into, and they can grow into this like crazy sort of bestial, you know, thing. But as soon as like they get like shot, like you know. Fat is like sliced off it and it returns back to Mudang. So like that's the kind of thing. It's like it
Return
grows.
to Mudang.
Yeah,
That's the
return
name
to
of my
Mudang.
next album.
Wait, describe the fat component again. I didn't
So
get
like
that.
this, so like instead, like you know, every time, so the more enemies you eat without getting hit, the bigger you
Mm.
get, and the more kind of crazy you get, and
Yeah.
the more kind of powerful you get.
Do you guys
But
play
every time you
Prototype?
get hit- yeah, like Prototype.
Yeah,
so,
like
so this is
Prototype,
it, right?
yeah.
So yeah, but then what ends up happening is like as soon as you start getting hit, like you can see like its fat being shed off, and
Oh,
like
damn.
it just kind of
Whoa.
like falls to the ground and starts like writhing, and yeah, this is, and
I-
this could easily be a
Brilliant.
horror. Great.
I
Let's make
like it
let's
because
make
it's
a horror fighter
disgusting.
game.
I
Exactly.
It's
want it to be
disgusting and
disgusting
violent.
and horrific, but
Because
with that
Mudang is
cute
disgusting.
Mudang. Yeah, but I want the juxtaposition of like the character speaking and sounding like a tiny little cute Mudang, but like
Yes.
as they get bigger, like their voice stays the same, so
Mhm.
they're
Absolutely.
still the little cute Mudang, but they're this horrific flesh.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
hippo.
Can we
And they're like,
can we
yeah,
do
they-
something with the fat, like the leftover fat that just
Yeah,
sheds off?
I think you could eat it for health.
Okay, so you
just get
drop
it
your
back.
own health and you have to re-get it. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah. I think
but
that's a
it
great
starts to
mechanic.
shrink. It starts to shrivel up. So
Yeah,
like
so you
you,
got- you
have
only
to
got-
finish your combat over here and then jump
Exactly.
over to the fat and gobble it up before
Exactly.
you know it goes away.
Yeah.
Oh. I didn't think it
Eric
was gonna
says
go this
Google is giving
disgusting.
me not safe for work results.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
don't
bet.
look it up.
All right. So mechanically, what I'm thinking about is how I feel we've got like our kind of overarching. We're doing our top down, right? So I want to think mechanical
Okay,
basis.
isometric. Okay.
So, yep. Yeah, where we at? Where
Yeah.
we at?
Well, no, not as in top down. So we're thinking top down design wise, right?
Oh,
So we've
okay,
got a lot
okay.
of our narrative and we've got a lot of our like reasonings for things, but I want to think about mechanical. So we're talking about having air operations and ground operations and stuff, but mechanically, what are we doing? Are we in third person? Are we in first person?
I mean, it
you know,
sounds
if
like
it's a
it should be
shooter-
third person if you want to see her
person.
Yeah.
grow, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to
Because
see
it's
that
like a-
Mudang, right?
And I'd say
Mhm.
like it's like a mission to mission basis. It isn't like open world. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like you've got like in like the deeper you go into gameplay, the more kind of access you get. Like you've got like a best friend, which is an owl, and they end up giving you like
Okay.
a cool like, you know, here's your fighter jet, and you know, here's your like fat storage, and you know, that kind of thing. And like halfway
Like,
through, the
Is it
owl
Q
gets shot
from
in the head.
007? The owl
Yeah,
is
exactly.
Q?
Like Q.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. But it's called O, and you know, halfway through they end up like getting like shot in the head and killed
No!
because
No,
and that's like then like the incentive of Mudang to also go like kind of full throttle like mad
yeah,
beasting,
no
and
limits.
no limits. Yeah,
Oh
exactly.
my
So
god.
you can only do that when it's like a linear kind of progression. So that's the game that we're making next.
Kill the
That's
owl.
I just pitched you guys what our next game, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah.
Great.
This is
It all lined up.
Mudang and O. Oh my
I
god.
have an image in my head of Mudang like wounded on the ship in the mission where the owl dies and like stumbling down the corridor or whatever. And like on the wall, instead of like a medical kit, it's just like a pocket of fat, like a pouch. And she like breaks it with her hippo elbow and then slurps
Do
it up. And
hippos
then
have
just
elbows?
makes
I
it-
don't even know. I think she's just gonna
Oh.
like
Just stuff
backhand it.
I'm just loving these
Well,
images,
why
man.
don't
These
roundhouse
images are
kick it?
great.
Yeah.
Eric, you're doing a great
Um,
job. What's this one?
This is a dead
That's
owl,
an
dude,
owl.
or something.
This is a dead owl.
I don't think it's a dead owl. I think it's just sleeping, but it looks dead.
Okay.
It's
My
O.
most important question for Mudang is: we know what Mudang is doing. Their operations, aesthetically, are they or are they not wearing a tiny little hippo vest with all of their little
think we need a
pouches
vest.
and ammo?
No, I think we need
Okay.
that
Yeah,
because
you
you're
need
talking about
Mudang in a
contrast. Yeah,
tactical vest.
right?
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Yeah, it needs to be like the most shit smooth, fucking Demolition Ranch, Cry Precision, one of those like real tactical kind of gear ups.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a hippo. Then you have your contrast because you're right. I think that's what where a lot of the humor will come from.
And are they
is the
wearing
silliness
booties
section.
on their back feet? Are they
I
wearing
don't
the
need
combat
booties,
booties?
man. Don't need booties, man. You see them paws? Like,
Oh my god.
Right, yeah, I think
like it.
booties detracts. I think they get offered booties on the first mission, and they're like, I don't need these booties, and then like they kind of do their thing. So yeah, totally.
Oh my god. I love the idea of them getting offered tiny little military
Decoy
booties. Yeah. And they're like, no.
There's like a human support staff person holding tiny little booties and go like, ma'am. Wait, Mudang is a female, right?
Yes.
I can't tell. Okay.
Yes, yes.
So he goes, ma'am.
Ma'am.
Like, I'm good, and then just
Yeah.
yeah.
Cocks a gun.
Uh,
Does it?
Speaking of mechanics, I feel like we got to incorporate the water here, like the getting wet
Mm.
part of being a hippo. How could we integrate that? Hippos are better when they're wet, I assume. Like they're more
Yeah.
comfortable.
Is
and they're
that
better in
is
the
that how
water.
you activate like her Super Saiyan mode? In combat.
If they get wet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Whether it's
Yeah,
environmental or like a.
I think it should be wet from the blood of the enemies. So I think.
Oh,
like,
damn.
Ooh.
I think it's.
That's
I've got a moment here, right? Mudang gets captured, and it's moisture, it's water that gives them the energy, the power to like push them to the next level and give them the energy. So they're being tortured. Mudang's tied up, being tortured in their little chair,
Oh my
and
god.
they're torturing Mudang. Mudang's like, getting tortured, and then one of the torturers is just like as an insult spits on Mudang, but that's moisture.
Big mistake.
And then big mistake, busts out, like it instantly goes apeshit, and that's how they get out. It's because they spit on them.
That's great. I love that moment. That's perfect.
Yeah,
that's
right?
that's that's
It's
a well
moisture.
scripted moment. Yeah.
It's moisture.
And then
right?
that level is different because you're starting from like your bar is normally like half full to 75, whatever. But now you got to start from down here, and you got to
Yeah.
like quickly get some blood to moisturize.
My
Mhm.
GN would definitely give us a 7.
I need
Oh,
to
yeah,
know,
100%.
Abubakar, do you think the way we're talking, Jeff Keighley would be on board? if we were
Yeah,
pitching
let's get
something?
Jeff.
100%. 100%. I mean,
He's gonna have us come on stage.
Yeah.
We're like
Somehow-
hippos.
Yeah, you might be like at the
Somehow.
pitch game session, be like, what?
What?
And then you spit on her.
Yeah, it's like, okay.
Can we,
Somehow, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead. Yeah.
Somehow, I think if I meet Jeff Keighley at the BAFTAs next year, and I suggest this game, I don't think I'm going to be invited
I
to
don't
be
know.
on this.
I don't think you'd be able to get on stage with this, man.
I'm fine with that.
Like,
I want to keep my
yeah,
career where I'm not going to ruin it by suggesting we make this Mudang game.
Oh,
Yeah.
damn.
yeah, maybe
I
take
like
like the
it.
drawing board, you know.
Yeah.
Can we talk about names? I like High Speed Hippo.
Okay.
Mood down.
Oh, I
Mudang.
like that.
I was just about to say
That's
that,
pretty
but
good.
mine was slightly different. I was going to Mudang.
That's more action inspired, so I think that works very well.
What
High
was-
Speed
what was the other one?
Hippos.
There was Return
Oh.
of the what? we had one earlier. I can't remember what it was.
Did
Return
we?
or something.
With return?
I swear we did.
No, yeah, return something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody in the chat,
Ah.
please remind us. When did we say
what was the
return?
return one, guys?
You know what? You don't see this in video games at all, and maybe this would be a first for this Mudang game, but I am intrigued by Bollywood physics in action films.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mudang needs to move around the world like that, like she's in a
that's
Bollywood film.
genius. That is.
Have you seen
Right?
RRR, you guys?
Yes.
Oh yeah. Oh my god.
I want those
Nutty.
limited animations as well. So like if Mudang's doing a backflip, we're not seeing those arches in the legs and the momentum. It's literally just like
Yeah. It's great. just it
full
does everything.
360. Yeah.
And you'll accept it because it's the game.
Yeah. 100%.
I
God
like
damn.
this.
This is somehow
Yeah.
the most batshit one we've come up with.
Is it?
Oh, what's this, Eric? What did Eric just think? This looks like a Hippo Commando.
Oh my god, it's Mudang.
That's the game. That's the game.
For those who can't see, what is this? This is like Mudang's in the jungle with a little fatigue hat and fatigue outfit, and she's in commando mode because she's got the binocular. This is an infiltration Solid
This is an
Snake
infiltration mission, yeah.
3 mission, right? Not Solid Snake, Metal Gear Solid 3 mission.
Mudang can do all of them. Mudang is our best operative.
Mudang has been in so many training pipelines. Mudang must be at least like 68. Learned all the flying, learned all the tank driving, learned all the infiltration.
Oh my god.
How long do
That-
hippos
Oh,
live
God.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's a good question.
I don't know.
for? Let's look it up.
How
There's
long
a
do they live
hippo
for? You mean like turtles where they're like 200 years old?
Yeah, maybe.
This is fantastic, by the way. I just want to say, like, the conversation has gone from literally like, layoffs in the industry to let's make an action hippo game.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
This is game dev, baby.
That is brilliant.
This is all Tina. Tina like did a pitch as for fun, and turns out like it's a lot
Yeah,
of fun.
I think it
Every time
started
we do
when
it.
we had Tim Schafer on, and I was like, oh my god, we got to pitch a game to him just to see how he likes it. And we pitched Kid on a Leash, like a real life kid, on
On
like
a
a harn. You know,
Yeah, it was.
did you see that in the
one of those
UK?
Kid leashes.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
What-
Sold me already
what-
on it.
What
was
was
it
some of the
called?
others we had? It was called like Unleashed or something.
No, it was
That
called Tug and Done.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Tuck and Done,
And then we
yeah.
immediately realized that was a bad name, Tina, and we
That's a
decided not to
terrible
go
It's a
with
name.
that.
fantastic name.
Yeah, we've had some others. What the one we had
With
where
Taylor
the Trepang
Swift.
devs on? Yeah, the Taylor Swift one where you had to. It was like a point and click adventure game where you were trying to infiltrate a Taylor Swift concert.
But we didn't
With
get the
your-
rights to her name, so it was like Swaler Mift or something like that.
It changed every
Swaler
time.
Tiff. It
Swaler
changed every
Mift,
time.
Taylor Tiff.
We had the
The
one
Trepan
with the
guys.
Trepang egg.
Yeah.
The Trepan guys. Where we had the game. What was it like? Ass Blaster.
Yeah,
The-
it was
the
just
Ass
Ass
Blaster
Blaster.
game.
Mm.
Yeah,
Ass
he was
Blaster, yeah.
a man who was supposed to be like a combustible suicide bomb, like sort of a sci-fi assassin slave, I guess. Like he was forced to go kill himself as a suicide bomb organically, like a
As a
sci-fi
robot or
concept
something,
there.
right? Yeah.
But it screwed up, like, and instead it just shot fire out of his ass and turned into
really?
like he has a weapon. So he practiced capoeira to like dance and point his ass at people and then blast them. And he went to go kill the people who forced him into this assassination
I love how you're just
forced soldierhood. What?
I helped come up with this, and hearing it out of context, like explained, like hurts.
Yeah, I'm like hiding my face. I'm like, I'm not involved in this. I really wasn't, but
I thought it was
Yeah,
great.
you know,
I thought it was
It is
excellent.
great, but
But I guess
Yeah.
it,
My God.
it was also very Trepang, so it was motivated by that, which is about
Yeah,
like,
that's true.
super soldier action and
yeah,
shit.
super soldier action shooter kind of stuff. We say that, but like we've got our Hippo. You know, that's not really connected. to
Yeah.
this.
I
I guess,
love
like you
her.
said,
Got a freaky little
Abubakar,
Hippo.
we do have a bit of a violent inclination with these pitches.
But hey, you know what? It works.
Yeah, no,
There
I
you
think
go.
I brought the violence.
I actually did. I think I did. Yeah, I think that was me. So, you know, you were talking about fighter jets and stuff, and I was like, no, it like lives off the blood of his enemies.
Yeah,
So,
and sheds
yeah,
fat. And
I take
metal
that.
as fuck. Yeah,
That's
for
just
sure.
that's just me.
I'm gonna read some questions and comments that we've got.
Oh yeah, some donos and stuff. Beautiful.
Yeah, donations.
So,
Okay, so
wrap us up.
Snake in the Garden,
€2 asks, "How do we feel about WoW?" And I think by we he means Abubakar.
How do we feel about WoW? As in
Yes,
World of
World
Warcraft?
of
World of
Warcraft.
Warcraft.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always had a soft spot for it. So for me, it's always been a game to me that, I mean, I haven't played it for so many years, but I've always had a soft spot for World of Warcraft. I've loved it. It's one of those games where it was the first time I had sort of, funnily enough, learned like raiding and like, you know, working with like communities and kind of doing some really like online play with, you know, which was really cool. So yeah, it took too many years of my life. It was like,
Oh,
it was
I know.
real,
I'm obsessed with WoW still. My
yeah,
last video that I just released was on how I've been addicted to it for 16 years.
yeah.
Like
It's
it's a mental
I
game.
I had
Yeah.
I had a dream once when I was a kid, like of, you know, yeah, when I'm an adult, I'm gonna like have my own place and just play WoW for like hundreds for the whole day. And now you realize the reality of that. It's like that's not possible. But yeah,
Yeah.
WoW is something.
It's certainly
Evan.
one of the games of all time, for sure.
Yeah.
So our next comment's from Noradine. And the currency is Try, Try. I have never heard of that. But she
not sure.
donated,
Look it up.
he or she
you.
donated 55 of that, of
Okay.
Try.
TRY, you said?
TRY, yeah.
Turkish.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
And they said, "Sleep? I never sleep. I just wait in the shadows, and I will unalive you all." Jesus. Everyone who
Is that a
sniffed the
quote
air
of-
that day in Siwa. I have no idea what this is in reference to.
That is,
Sounds like it's quoting a character.
Assassin's Creed Origins by a
Oh,
quote.
okay.
That was the opening cinematic that
Oh.
we did. Funnily enough, that scene was shot secretively.
Oh.
Wasn't supposed to make the cut, but the director and the writer that we worked with were like, "Let's just do it." And we
Are you
did it,
serious?
and
That's
it's like,
cool.
yep. And it made the cut for the opening, and it's one of the most quoted scenes for me I've ever had, which is great.
It's because
That's
it's metal as fuck.
It really is.
Super
It's like real crazy.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Next one is from Dark Jackal for $5. And they say, "Thanks for the conversation as always. Great to listen in. Salim, is there a genre of game you enjoy but would not want to make your own game in?"
Yeah,
So
MMOs.
MMOs,
I was
yeah.
just thinking, dude, they're
That's
some intense
a
shit.
beast I wouldn't want to dive into. I've had
Best genre to
dreams,
play,
maybe.
worst to make.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, MMOs 100%.
It's like every little piece of it is enormous and intense. The community angle, the design angle,
Everything.
the business angle, the technical.
Keeping it going, everything.
Yeah,
everything.
It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Double
And
sound.
people don't really, I don't know, it's so risky, right? Businesses are going to be like, fuck, you want to make an MMO? Like it's, I don't know. That'd be
Yeah.
wild. There aren't that many new MMOs coming out, I feel like, since there used to
No,
be.
not really, but like
Ashran's
Yeah.
Call, I guess, was. No, I'm sorry, not Ashran's Call. Ashes of Creation is one of the ones.
There's a lot coming out from Korea. There's and the East, and there's a few in development currently. But the problem is they're so unbelievably expensive to make for
Yeah.
a potential like terrible turnaround because people are so invested. Like World of Warcraft is about to hit its
Yeah, why
20th
would you-
anniversary.
yeah.
Oh
It's
my
like, why would you
God.
Why
leave
would
that?
I invest in another game when it could potentially be removed from stores in a few months when I've
Yeah,
put
so
20 years
true.
into this one game, right? So
Yeah, so true.
the genre is just failing. I feel like maybe Riot's MMO that they're working on, their League of Legends MMO, has the potential to be
That's because it already
something
has a
special.
community and a fan base towards it, right?
Exactly,
Whereas,
right.
like it's a known IP.
Yeah. So
There's that
we'll see.
someone in the chat points out the Dune one, which I don't think is like full on subscription MMO.
It's a,
like
it's
survival.
no, it's a survival game more than it is a
Right.
more than it is
Which
an
is a
MMO.
cool evolution of the MMO. Like if you want to look at it
Yeah,
that way.
moving
Although I
into
wouldn't
that
say
angle
it
for
came
sure.
from there. But that's a
Yeah.
cool angle, yeah.
Okay, I
Yeah,
got another
100%.
one. Snake in the Garden for €5 says, What's your take on acting versus voice acting? Which do you prefer? You have such a great voice. Audiobooks, maybe? Future Civ narrator, perhaps?
Ooh.
I would say they are the same, requiring different skills, obviously, in regards to how, and tools that in order to kind of convey the truth of each one. But ultimately, again, I enjoy them both because you have to tell a story as truthfully as you can. With voice acting, it's a lot more of the music of the voice and conveying it through there. Whereas with film, TV, even theatre, you've got a lot more at your arsenal. The body, the eyes. So yeah, I think I don't have a preference. I think each one has their own strengths, and like I can rock up to like a booth in my jogging bottoms, and like kind of be cool with that. Whereas you can't necessarily do that on a film set.
Got it.
Music of the voice was a beautiful way of phrasing it for voice acting. Like it's a really easy to understand way of it. Like because like I'm not a voice actor. I'm a sound designer, but with a lot of what I do with my work being being a YouTube creator and that being my full-time job, I'm doing a lot of voiceover work, but as myself, and learning to speak, like to read, and this is if ostensibly acting, but like learning to read a script in a way that sounds natural. It is in a way like music, and learning to teach yourself that is really rewarding.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Our next comment is from John Brooks. He provides £20. Thank you. He says, Origins is the only Assassin's Creed I have done to completion due to your performance as I keep mispronouncing this. Bayek,
yeah.
Bayek. I needed to see him to the end. But did you ever slip into a Yorkshire northern accent when saying his name? Also,
Bayek.
And then he wants to know if you have any pets.
I don't have any pets. I used to have a goldfish. The goldfish now is at my parent-in-law's because it's much happier there. But no, I never slipped into the Yorkshire. But the amount of people who did with saying my name, who'd just be like, "Oh, what's your name? Bayek? You mean Bayek?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's a good one."
Bayek.
So yeah. So that happens a lot.
So wait, Vivka, where are you from in England originally?
I'm from Hertfordshire. So
right.
so London, but like again, England's small, right? So it's like so it's definitely something.
For sure.
Nice. Snake in the Garden, thank you again, provides €5 and says, husband reviewed your game on Steam, and you personally replied with such grace that he was like, I'll play their next game. Great lead, by example, by you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that was something that I should do more and kind of have more time to do. But I really enjoyed like replying personally to people, especially who've reviewed, because it takes a lot of time for someone to actually write a review for you on Steam, and it makes such an impact. Like it has such an impact. But the time taken to even both negative as well as positive, like if it's actually thorough and it's really kind of putting it out there, like it's so constructive. So I love reviews. I think reviews are, especially when given from from people, communities who actually care about the medium, like, and who actually kind of want to give their thoughts on it. It's so useful.
Nice.
It's a huge deal. Everybody right now, go to your favorite game, especially if it's indie, and give it a positive review and say why. It makes a very big difference when you're trying to find funding. It makes a very big difference for motivation, like internally. Just go do it, and it's easy. And well, put thought into it, put the time in, but just know that it's very helpful.
Snake in the Garden, again, with €2, says, Tina,
Snakey
we
over
don't
here.
deserve you, and we don't have to stay on that.
I think
had to read
Snake
it.
of the Garden's right. We don't deserve Tina.
No,
she's too good for us. Look what she's created with this pitch.
Another from her again, €2. She says, "What game would you play to win at Battle Masters?"
What? Sorry.
What game would you play to win at Battle Masters? And that's the new show from Second Wind, right?
We have a new show called Battle Masters, which is where we compete in a game. So our first episode was in Dark Souls. It was for whoever's going to ring one of the bells in Dark Souls first. Whoever did that quickest won. We've got our other episodes that I can't speak to because they're not out yet. But if you were to create a gaming challenge for a bunch of creators or voice actors to compete in, what do you reckon your challenge would be for you to kind of have an edge? What would that be?
Oh, that's a good question. It
Oh,
would
have I just
probably
dropped?
it would probably be oh man, that's tough.
Is your
This is
stream
tough.
still
This
going?
requires some time. Jay,
I
can you
can
hear
hear you.
us? I
We
think
can
you
hear you.
froze.
You
We
just
can hear you.
froze. You just look
Yeah.
like you're judging us, which is fine.
You
Which
look
is
you look a little judgmental, Jay.
Yeah. You don't have to mute
You want to
yourself.
scale it back a
We
little
can
bit?
hear you.
It would have to be, I would say, oh no, I don't know. Maybe it's like for some reason my mind keeps going back to, remember in Tekken 3 where I think it was in Tekken 3 where you had
Mhm.
you played as Jin and you could it was almost like a story mode and you could go you could walk around and do your thing and you'd eat like the chicken, that kind of stuff.
Uh-huh.
Probably be like who can eat the most chicken. I don't know. I feel like I was just trying to think of it. Can't even think about it, but yeah, probably that.
That's awesome.
Oh,
I
he's back.
would.
Hello.
You're right.
Oh shit! Look,
Sorry
it's Jay.
about that. I dropped out. I didn't.
You're
I didn't
right
get to
up in
hear
our
what
grill
your-
now.
Force.
your
Yeah,
option
it was Tekken Force, and it was sorry, I was just saying, mate, it was Tekken Force, and who can eat the most chicken would probably be the challenge that I would do, and trying to you would literally fight as many people as you can, and if as soon as there's chicken, that's the first thing you got to get, and it's and even if you have full health, because I don't think you can eat it if you have full health either, so you'd have to find a way of damaging yourself to eat that chicken, and that's how you get a point.
Dude, that's a great challenge. I'm
There
writing
you
that
go.
down. Thank you.
I got Snake asked for more. I got a quick one. Play Stalker Shadow of Chernobyl and find the most cans of tourists' breakfast. Also food themed, I guess. It's
There you
just this
go.
weird food item that doesn't drop too often. So you just have to go scavenging around, deciding if you want to kill your fellow stalkers to get cans of
see.
food.
Making an
Amazing.
objective within a game that's not really an objective.
Yeah,
Yeah,
especially in an
that's
open
it.
world game that's fun
Yeah.
to explore, I think.
Yeah.
That's a theme we've kind of followed with a lot of our future Battle Master episodes. Is seeing how you can have those kind of secondary objectives that aren't based on the game's actual rulings, which gives a lot of room for the players to get super creative with how they justify what they're doing, which is fun.
Amazing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Noradine provides a 22 Turkish bucks. Thank you. Says,
Turkish
are we going
bucks.
to I'm
Turkey
sorry, I
bucks.
don't know. Turkey bucks. Are we going to hear your voice in any more games?
I've got something cooking that I cannot talk about, and it's very exciting.
Oh my god. Hello,
All right.
Abubakar and Hello Kitty Online. Let's go.
Hello Kitty Online, you guessed it right. No, it's yeah. No, I'm doing quite a few. There's a few, but there's one that I'm really particularly really excited about.
Hell yeah.
Right
All
on.
right.
No
That
hints.
was odd.
Can't say anything.
Nothing. De nada.
Oh
Fair
my
enough.
God. Fuck. All right. So that's pretty perfect timing, and also our last donation. I just want to say thank you so much, Abubakar, for joining us. It's been super entertaining. I just want to echo what Tina was saying early on, to hear how you're creatively directing your company and pushing for the things that you are. It's really inspiring to hear, and I think a lot of people, especially in the AAA space, can learn a lot. And from what you're doing. So thank you.
Yes,
Thank you
and I
very
don't
much
say
for
this
having
to
me.
many people at all, but you seem like a genuine, kind, empathetic,
Oh, thank
creative, and I think a lot of developers will be clamoring to want to work at your company.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you.
It was really fun, man. Thank you, especially
Amazing.
for answering the tough questions and doing it
Of
genuinely.
course. It's
So one
it's
tough
important
question
to-
I wanted to end on, if that's okay. I've
Go
asked
on.
you this on Twitter already, but no one else has seen it. Why did the snake deep throat the tree in Raised by Wolves?
What a good face.
I don't know, but I was there for it.
Right on.
Thank you.
So on that note, I want to say thank you so much, as always, to Tina and Mikey for joining me, and Eric, our producer in the back end, doing his incredible work, and Abubakar for joining us.
Thank you.
This show is supported by your wonderful donations and Patreon support. So thank you to everyone who is doing that, and to all of our listeners. And yeah, we will see you in the next episode. Bye bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.